Recording. All right, guys. So thanks for joining. And my name is Devojit. You know me, and I will be the instructor for throughout this course called AWS Security Specialty Plus AWS Security Productions. Um, why this? Because the whole intention of this course is very clear. It's not a typical certifications course. Yes, it is a certification course. Plus, also you should understand that only having the certification knowledge will not fly. Okay. Since all you are from a different background and you guys are experienced, so that's why this course I personally designed. Definitely it's a AWS security specialty certification, but on top of that, in industry, as a security architect or as a security solutions consultant, so what would be the solutioning approach, which is very very important. So yeah, welcome, Junaid. So
Yeah,
I've
welcome.
just started
Thank you.
in 2 minutes. Yeah, thanks. So as I said that this particular course is not also, let me put it this way. Let's say you join somewhere in the security consultant or security architect, then what will happen that uh, not every time you have to work with AWS and AWS. Can you please go mute everybody, and you can unmute yourself and ask question even little background. So now thanks. What happened that during this interview and as a in the productions environment, your customer, they first need to understand that if my infrastructure is running on AWS or Azure or whatever XYZ, how, what could be the protections, what could be the security controls you have to adapt. It is not like all of the security controls will be applicable for all of the customer. It's a wrong or bad solutioning, right? You really need to understand the customer requirement. Let's say some of the customers are coming from BFSI sector, banking and all. Some of the customers are coming from or let's say health industry, or some of the customers are coming from the regular, let's say regular customer. But for each and every customer, understanding their requirement is very very important. So this is something you can see on my screen. So I designed this particular circle, and in this circle you can see, so right now forget about AWS, just let's focus on the security controls in the industry. There are many, but at least this, so that once we'll understand different areas of the security, and then we'll get into the AWS security, and we can see the what are the AWS solutions there to protect some infrastructure some of the customers need. Let's say if somebody is coming from BFSI, then what are the controls, what are the AWS services we have to propose, so that yes, if they are running on AWS, so their infrastructure will be protected as per PCI DSS, or let's say RBI guidelines from the India, or GDPR policy, or different policy, right? The different industries policy. If somebody is coming from the healthcare, then is a HIPAA and all. So here you can see that if I can break the entire security solutions, there are many. So right now, let's say if I'll start from the application security. So let's say you are the infrastructure people, but also you need to understand that you cannot ignore the application security as well, because your customer, they need help. They are not expert like you. They will say this is the problem statement, and now it's up to you that how can you solve the problem. From my experience, I can see that even though you have controlled, you have applied a lot of infrastructure, AWS, security controls. However, in many instances, from my experience, I can see there's a threats, there's a security breach, there's a lot of malware attack. Why? Maybe the application framework is not well tuned from the security perspective. Their code base, their developer, the way they have written their code, there's a lot of loopholes in that code. So there's a lot of, let's say, backdated frameworks, let's say very old .NET framework, or let's say very old Magento framework, which is no longer exist in the market, but still they are using. And there's some bad people, hackers, they will exploit all of these old framework, and they can ingest their bad malware traffic into this. You understand I'm coming from where? So first you need to understand this, and then you can provide the solution. Hey, you know what, Mr. Customer, this is AWS XYZ lot of solutions you can adapt. But if you don't know what kind of security, what kind of threats, how can you remediate this, then how can you propose the AWS solutions even? So now this is the application security, and you can see that there's a lot of service source code review tool there, web application scanning and WAF. So we'll discuss. Then if I'll come to the identity or fraud management, you can see there's a many company. There's the IAM means identity access management, right? In any, so let's say Azure or AWS. And also I came across that many companies, let's say, for some reason, somebody already assigned an admin control to somebody, let's say Mr. Bob, and then later point of time they forgot, oh, I assigned the admin privilege Bob. And now what happened that these are big security threats, right? So internal threats, because there's a golden rule in industry that if somebody doesn't need something, then don't allow something. I mean, let's say Bob is only the DBA, then why are you giving the access of full admin to that Bob? I mean, I'm coming from that perspective. So this IAM control, there's a lot of PIM services there, right? It's kind of privilege identity management or PAM services there, so that you can protect your internal IAM control. Then if I'll come to the data content security, in this data and content security, there are a lot of tool like anti-spamming, antivirus, web filtering. I'll show you some of the real BOQ, real solutions I've just opened in my one of my I'll take you to there. So here the thing is that, um, when you provide the solution to any customer, then you need to understand that, okay, because AWS will not provide you any antivirus solutions, for an example. Not for the example, actually the real case is AWS doesn't have any antivirus solution. AWS has a different perimeter security solution, their IDS IPS system, their own intelligence security detection system, the WAF is there and all. We'll discuss all of them slowly. But they don't sell any antivirus. But customers, they don't know that what the AWS will provide or what. They need their infrastructure to be secure, my dear friends. In that case, that's your responsibility as a security architect or security consultant, that provide the proper antivirus solutions on each and every virtual machine or EC2 or whatever resources you have, so that you can protect that kind of minimum security threats there. So maybe your question, okay, Devojit, then how can you do that? I mean, is there any way to provide the antivirus? Of course, there's a lot of marketplace solution like Trend Micro, Sophos. We'll discuss through this because it's a very fast day class, and in the first day, I am just trying to give you the overall idea that if you'll get into the AWS security or cloud security, your mindset would be very clear that you have to think holistically. Okay, since I mentioned that 85 to 90% class we'll spend in the practical, because I'm the hands-on guy, I believe in practical. But the theory is also important to understand that what is security is all about. Security is very hot cake. But while you talk to the customer, then you really need to understand the problem. So now you can see the security assessment and management section. There's a lot of VAPT, audit framework, SIM tool here, because AWS, they don't have any SIM tool either, no VAPT. So they have the VAPT, by the way, but the SIM tool is a very important for any BFSI customer, let's say bank, or let's say finance company, right? And even for the HIPAA compliant, the health industry. So SIEM is security incident and event management. In Azure, there's a very good tool called Sentinel. But for AWS, they don't have the SIEM tool, but you can integrate with the ArcSight. So I personally working with the ArcSight solution for many customers. So the SIEM, you can integrate the ArcSight, and there's a lot many other SIEM solution. So you can integrate with the AWS. So basically, SIEM service, what it does, security incident and event management.
Just to interrupt, if I
Hmm.
may,
Hmm. Yes.
what is guard duty and CloudWatch then? Is it not an SIA?
No, guard duty is kind of so that's why I'm saying that guard duty is kind of only a kind of detection system, right? It is not have any capability of the protections. It will only give you some of the IDS, IPS sort of detections. Okay, some of the Trojan horse will be coming. Some of the bad traffic is coming. But this guard duty doesn't have any capability to protect them. It's your responsibility how to protect them automatically. The SIEM is something like a security incident and event management, and this is something it will capture all of the logs. Logs in the sense each and every logs, maybe your application logs, your database logs, your operating system logs, your infrastructure log, your network logs. Then it is continuously monitoring your logs and see the behavior pattern of the logs, that who access what. So this SIEM is very costly affair, but costing is will come later point of time. First you need to secure your customer and customer requirement. So then if I'll come to this section under network security, you can see there are a lot of perimeter level security there, like firewall, IPS, proxy, reverse proxy, VPN. So AWS, they have some of the native solutions there. Recently they launched the firewall, but as I said that from the industry best practice, from my last 6 to 7 years experience, even AWS agreed, AWS really they don't have very strong IPS there. Okay, still you need to go by some of the marketplace, let's say Fortinet next generations firewall or some other IDS IPS system. So guard duty etc, this is only a kind of certain protections. It is not, it will not give you that much of the flexibility. It is a myth, it's the AWS business that AWS keeps on telling this, it is good, but even if you talk to any CISO or security officers or any customer, then guard duty is having, guard duty is good, but it doesn't have any remediation activity. They cannot block this. Now if I'll come to this database monitoring section. So the database monitoring, yes, AWS they have some of the encryptions, they are at the storage level encryptions, at the disk level encryptions they have. But also you need to understand that if the customer requires some of the table level encryption, each and every column and row level encryption, so then again you need to be very dependent on the DBA, and then you have to ask your DBA to go for some of the TD encryptions and all that. It's not your job. You cannot do everything because you're the security architect. How can you know all of these things? But you need to understand that overall security portfolio. Somebody should explain whatever I've just explained. So let me ask Asif. So Asif, what do you think by this application security? And that's how I teach. That's of the kind of schooling. Bear with me. Sorry for that, but this is a very interactive sessions I do. So Asif, can you please explain or help us to understand that what do you mean by this application security? This area that we have covered, right? So whatever you understand, take your time. Are you there, Asif? And one more thing, guys, don't be silent. I mean, I'm just saying that it's a kind of live interaction sessions. Ask questions. I will ask questions, and there will be very interactive. Otherwise, there's no reason of here, right? So maybe you can go and pre-recorded session somewhere, and you will not get benefit anything. So Ashan, would you like to give it a try? Anything wrong, bad, ugly, bad, good, whatever you can answer, just answer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Its
thanks.
application is more about layer 7, where
Mm,
application works. So application security would be properly port is defined
mm,
on what port application should
correct.
communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Also, any loopholes, coming from maybe Linux
Mm,
operating system, and all those things probably would cover in
good.
this
Well tried.
area.
Well tried. So Ram, would you like to add something here in the application security, that as security architect, what do you think that in this layer, can we add something here? What Hassan mentioned.
Well, as you can see, it's like you're covering your web application security. That's like whatever the applications that you're running on the services, as previous colleague has mentioned,
Hmm.
you have defined your ports and you have defined everything, but how far have you defined your security in your application?
Hmm.
And what kind of vulnerabilities does those applications
Correct.
have? As you mentioned, if you're using legacy, libraries which have vulnerabilities, you'll have to
Excellent.
patch them.
Excellent. And this is something I wanted to hear. Absolutely. I mean, everybody's right here. The web and application layer 7, all good. But here you can see that if it's a very legacy application and you don't patch your application, so their own security controls, and your OEM, let's say I'm using a very old Oracle database for an example, or let's say some of the Oracle Web Logic, and let's say your Oracle OEM, right? OEM itself, they declare that particular version is not no longer exist. The support is end. Their updates is end. Then definitely those kind of application will be declared as a legacy application, and it is always vulnerable to use this application. So you have to upgrade this. So that's why this course is very advanced level security, and you are well mentioned, Ram and Asan. Thanks. So last question to Junaid, to everybody basically. Maybe Jagdish also can